John Watts, you did it. You did it.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, like, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So, I have just got back from watching Spider-Man No Way Home, the third installment of Tom Holland's Spider-Man trilogy and over the 27th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, now as a big heads up guys, this will contain major spoilers. So if you guys have not seen the movie, I suggest that you stop watching this video right now and go see it for yourself. It's in theatres and cinemas, so please go see it as soon as you can right away. So yeah, now, I'm going to give you the countdown from 3 to 0, so yeah, you've been warned, so yeah, here we go now. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so, now guys, I'm going to say without a single doubt that, this movie, is certainly my favourite out of Tom Holland's movies ever. Like, I like it way more than Homecoming and Far From Home, and yeah, I love this movie. Now, critics are saying that this is the best Spider-Man movie of all time. But guys, I'm going to be honest and say that, while I do love a movie, I've already said to myself before that even if I do love this movie, I will never turn my back on Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is still my all-time favourite Spider-Man movie. So yeah, this movie, however, is probably now my fourth favourite Spider-Man movie. So yeah, So it's after Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man 2002 for me, so yeah. But yeah, now, this movie was just so sensational, and yeah, let's talk about it. So the movie begins, immediately after the events of Far From Home, where Mysterio exposes his Spider-Man using fake footage, and he was his identity as Peter Parker. So after this, Spider-Man and Michelle Jones escape and they swing to Peter's apartment and they reunite with Aunt May and Happy. However, unfortunately, the FBI come to take them into custody to interrogate them. But guys, the charges luckily dropped because someone comes in to help them, and the leaks were true, guys, because the character that helps them is none other than Matt Murdock. So yeah, Charlie Cox reprised his role from the Daredevil Netflix shows as Matt Murdock. Like, that was so brilliant how he came back to do that cameo. Like, wow. And I had a feeling he would be in it, based on the leaks. But then, even though Charlie denied it, but yeah, he was in the movie, yeah. So, however, despite the charges being dropped, however, when Peter, Michelle and Ned return to school, they find that their university applications to Massachusetts Institute of Technology have been rejected, sadly, due to a controversy. And Peter's upset about this, so yeah, he then visits Doctor Strange at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and he asks him to cast a spell to make people forget that he's Spider-Man. He obviously can't use the time stone because he no longer has it, because Thanos destroyed the stone, so yeah. And the past version was, of course, returned back to its timeline, so yeah. Wong warns Strange not to do it because of the consequences, but despite this, however, Strange casts it anyway. So yeah. So we go down to some sort of basement area, I think it was. I don't remember its name. It was like a very complicated name. I don't remember it, but yeah. As Strange is casting a spell, however, things go wrong because Peter constantly makes requests, alterations, such as, asking for Michelle, Ned, and Aunt May and Happy, to, still remember that he's Spider-Man. However, this causes the spell to be corrupted and fails, so this makes Doctor Strange angry, especially because the others had no idea that Peter wants to do this. So instead, Peter decides to find the acceptance board for MIT, to get them to give him another chance to go to university, with the help of Flash Thompson. So yeah, under promise that he can pretend that he's Peter's best friend. So yeah, but Flash, he was a little bit tall boy compared to the other movies, in my opinion, a little bit, because he helped Peter. But yeah, so So when Peter Parker goes onto a bridge to convince the staff to accept their applications, and the bridge is attacked, and as you get in the trailer, guys, it was none other than Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Like, oh wow, and I gotta say, the CGI they used to digitally de-age Alfred Molina, they nailed it perfectly. They really did, and he looked exactly the same as he did in Spider-Man 2. And the tentacles look great as well, so yeah. However, guys, unlike Spider-Man 2, where they made them with puppeteering, they did it with CGI in this movie, so yeah. They still look great, though, nonetheless, and we got a pretty awesome fight scene between them where, you know, he's chasing Peter and throwing cars at him. So, yeah. And if you're wondering why he's evil, guys, and not redeemed like in the Spider-Man 2, it's because he was pulled from his universe while he was choking in Spider-Man in the movie before he turned good. So, yeah, his tentacles still have control over him. And then he's able to then incapacitate Peter, and then he steals his nanotechnology from his Iron Spider suit. And it was so cool, and I can understand why the tentacles are CGI because of, you know, that, because the nanotech was, you know, bonding, so yeah. However, Otto is caught off guard when he realises this is not the Peter Parker he knows, so yeah. And this allows Peter to have a distraction, and where he's able to hack into a nanotech on Doctor's tentacles to make him control them, so yeah. And then after this, you know, he's able to save the MRT staff, and she promises to Peter that she's going to tell the staff about him being a hero, and also Michelle and Ned too. So yeah, so that was, you know, some good hope. And then, however, we then got a pretty cool scene where we got to see the Green Goblin guys. So yeah, that was pretty awesome seeing the original suit from the 2002 movie. Like, that was amazing. But before he can attack them, however, Doctor Strange, he saves them by sending them back to a Sanctum Sanctorum. And he's able to detain Dr. Octopus in a holding cell in the Sanctorum. And we also got an appearance by another villain, which was the Lizard, guys. So yeah, only the thing is, they never confirmed, you know, where the Lizard came from, if I remember correctly. Like, they never exactly confirmed where the Lizard came from. Exactly, like, we don't know if it's during Amazing Spider-Man 1 or, like, after it. I really don't know. So yeah, pretty confusing, actually, because he was captured off-screen, so yeah. And Reese Evans reprises role, and he still sounds great as Lizard, in my opinion. Like, in my opinion, Lizard's a very underrated villain, guys, you know, in terms of movies. So, yeah. Doctor Strange reveals that the spell that you know, went wrong has been bringing visitors from other universes. And they know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And it's come from every part of the multiverse. So, with help from Michelle and Ned, Peter decides to help capture other visitors. Now, however, in this scene, there was some bad qualities I will say, being that, you know, like in the second trailer, guys, I don't like how the trio made fun of Dr. Octopus's name, Otto Octavius, like, because, you know, because when they were laughing at him in the movie, I rolled my eyes, because I was thinking, don't insult my favourite Spider-Man villain like that. So, yeah. Poor Dr. Octopus, and I also didn't like how Michelle ordered Doctor Strange to say please. Like, I'm thinking, you know, Michelle, there's a multiversal crisis at stake, and all you can think about is saying please? Really? So with their help, Peter is able to capture other visitors, and he goes to like some sort of, you know, some pylons, and he finds Electro. And at first, guys, he is blue like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but then all of a sudden Spider-Man gets help from none other than Sandman. So yeah, and the thing is, Sandman is on Peter's side at first because, you know, he thinks, you know, he's the Spider-Man from his universe. But so yeah, and with Sandman, Spider-Man's able to defeat Electro, and then Electro becomes human again. You know, he gets his body back, and by draining the energy from the pylons, he realizes this universe is different. So, and he's very fascinated by it. So Electro gets captured. But after this, however, Sandman, when he realises that, you know, Spider-Man is not the Spider-Man he knows, he turns on him and he gets captured as well. And also in the movie, guys, Sandman was mostly made out of sand in the entire movie. You know, he didn't appear to be, you know, human-like in most of Spider-Man 3, but yeah. Now, meanwhile, Norman Osborn, he's trying to, like, abandon the Goblin personality in, like, an alley, and he actually destroys his helmet, guys, so yeah. like in, you know, a photo showing the damaged helmet, yeah, it's because he destroyed it trying to give it a personality, but yeah. That didn't really go so well, but yeah. He goes to a building called Feast where May works, and May contacts Spider-Man, and yeah, he takes Norman back to Happy Hogan's apartment, so yeah, because he wants to cure the villains and help them, so he takes them back to Happy Hogan's apartment, but Doctor Strange, however, doesn't want him to do that. He wants them, you know, to go back to and meet their fates in their universes, but Spider-Man's able to defeat Doctor Strange by confining him in the mirror of a dimension, which was very visually stunning in my opinion, guys. They did it so well. Now, at Hogan's apartment, Spider-Man is able to cure Dr. Octopus by using technology from Stark Industries to repair his inhibitor chip, so he's cured. They then begin making clones for Norman and Max Dillon. However, things go horribly wrong because the Green Goblin persona takes over Norman before the cure can be given to him. And he causes Electro to remove the device that Spider-Man puts on him to cure him, and the villains all begin to escape, so yeah. Like, Dr. Octopus tries to help Spider-Man, but yeah, but Electro sends him away, you know, by wounding him and knocking him out of the apartment, and the other 4 villains escape. In the battle, May is unfortunately for many people, but not for me, obviously, because I don't like this version of May. She's mostly wounded by the Green Goblin, and Tom Holland had really great acting in the scene where he's upset. So yeah, it was really great acting in my opinion. At the cinema, guys, you know, I heard people crying, but for me, I didn't cry because I don't like this version of Aunt May. I've always said that I don't like Mr. Tomei's version. I prefer Rosemary Harris and Sally Field far more. So yeah, wasn't sad for me really, but yeah. Now meanwhile, this was probably like one of the best parts of the movie, guys, ever. So yeah, now, so Michelle and Ned, they have Doctor Strange's, you know, sling ring that he used to open portals with, and they play around with it, and all of a sudden, you know, they learn how to open portals by saying they want to find Spider-Man. But guys, they open a portal, and guess who comes through? Yep, that's right. It's Andrew. Andrew Garfield comes in. So yeah, like all this time he was lying about not being in this movie when he was in it all this time. So yeah, and he took off his mask, and yeah, like when he appeared, guys, the entire audience like gasped and cheered and like, you know, clapped. And then after this, they open another portal, and it's Toby. You know, my favourite Spider-Man of all time, guys, was back. Like, oh wow. Like, that caused thunderous applause and cheers, and like, I was joining in, and you know, I was actually crying, guys. Like, I cried. I actually cried. Because Toby's my favourite Spider-Man, my favourite Marvel actor of all time, and seeing him on the big screen again, oh wow. Wow. Oh, goodness me. Like, that was just sensational. After this, Ned and Michelle find Spider-Man, who is on top of a building, upset about May's death. And then he meets the other 2. And then we get a very touching scene where they both share their stories about losing loved ones, and they encourage him to fight in the honour of May, saying she didn't die for nothing. Which was actually a very nice scene, guys, you know, because... and we also got the famous quote, with great power comes great responsibility, because May said it when she died. So yeah, she's heard it before. And of course, Toby recognised it, of course, and so did Andrew, because, you know, that's what, you know, Uncle Ben said before he died, so yeah. And Andrew talks about Gwen, and I noticed that Andrew was pretty emotional in this movie, guys, and the reason why is because, you know, he's, of course, suffering from trauma due to loss of Gwen Stacy, because, you know, his appearances, of course, after Amazing Spider-Man 2. But yeah, like, I was just in tears watching these scenes, you know. So they cooperate on wanting to cure the villains, and we got some pretty fun scenes with them in the science lab making the cures. It was really nice to see them working together. Like, that was just sensational. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was so unreal seeing them, all 3 of them together. So after this, the Spider-Men then confront their enemies, which is on the Statue of Liberty. They lure them to a Statue of Liberty. So yeah, which is under construction, guys. Which, for some reason, guys, the Statue of Liberty has, like, you know, like a shield with it, like a Captain America style shield. So that was pretty interesting to see. Maybe it's like being built on a Captain America's legacy. I don't know. So yeah. And we got a really phenomenal battle, guys. Like, probably the greatest MCU battle since a Portal scene, actually, in my opinion. Like, where all the three Spider-Men, they're fighting their enemies, and yeah, we got some pretty cool interaction between them, like, and we got a joke about Peter Parker's back as well, and you know that leak of Andrew on that scaffolding talking about, you know, web shooters and whatever, and, you know, web blood? That's actually the movie, guys, so even that was a lie by Andrew Garfield. He lied. So, yeah. And the battle was sensational, absolutely brilliant, like, so phenomenal. Like, I loved it. Like, what a brilliant battle that was. And, so yeah. They initially struggled to fight as a team, guys, but the Spider-Man decided to trust their instincts and plan a coordinated attack on the villains, and then they are later joined by Dr. Octopus, and at first it appears as though he's against them because he says, you know, leave them to me, to Electro, but then one of his tentacles gets rid of Electro's arc reactor given to him, and he puts, you know, the cure on him, so yeah. And it saves it. You know, it cures Electro, and then they cure the Lizard and Sandman as well. And Electro as well reconciles with, you know, his Spider-Man, and, you know, he's encouraged to abandon his villainous tendencies while the grown-up Tobey Maguire reunites with Dr. Octopus, and yeah, they have a very nice conversation, you know. That was very touching, actually. Ned, however, is able to free Doctor Strange from another dimension by mistake, and he's pretty angry because he was, you know, dangling on top of Grand Canyon for 12 hours. He sees his controller spell. He sees a controller spell, and he works to protect the universe as the barriers begin to break down between other universes. But then, however, during the chaos, some of the scaffolding gets destroyed, and Michelle falls, and I've always wanted it to be Andrew that saves her, and he did save her, guys. Like, he dived down to save her because Tom tried to grab her, but the Green Goblin, you know, grabbed him and pulled him away because he came back. And I loved his new suit, guys. It looked more of a comic version, actually. It looks so awesome. Like, when Andrew saved her, the entire audience had thunderous applause, including me. And yeah, that was so great. And during the fight, as the sun begins to rise, Spider-Man of the MCU is fighting an overpowering Green Goblin, and he wants to kill him for May's death. But he's luckily stopped from doing this because it makes him, you know, not who he's meant to be by Toby. Unfortunately, Toby gets stabbed, and that made me gasp because I thought, oh no, do not kill off Toby. Like, but thankfully, Toby survived. Thankfully. Like, if they'd have a guts to kill off Toby, I'd have walked out to a cinema, but thankfully he survived. And so MCU Spider-Man, you know, Tom, he injects the Green Goblin with a cure, and restored him to regretful Norman. And then at Peter's request, Doctor Strange fixes a spell, and he sends everyone back to their respective universes. However, in order to make sure the multiverse won't break down, he makes sure that something happens, being that everyone forgets who Peter Parker is. They don't know who he is at all. Not just because they don't know who Spider-Man is, but they don't know who Peter Parker is. So, yeah. Like, that, I didn't really like that much, you know, because, you know, it basically makes, you know, all these journeys, you know, disappearing, you know, from before makes more pointless, you know. But I will say that the scene where Spider-Man and Michelle say their goodbyes, and, you know, they have a very passionate kiss, you know, at last, because in Far From Away it was just a peck on the lips, and that was it. That was actually very touching, guys, I will say. Really touching. And then the spell all begins, and then, you know, it makes everyone forget who he is, including J. Jonah Jameson. And yeah, J.K. Simmons was a great addition to the movie as, you know, as J. Jonah. Great as always. Like, I'll never imagine anyone playing him better than him, you know. Now, later, however, Spider-Man wants to reintroduce himself to Michelle and Ned at, you know, the cafe that, you know, Michelle was working at. But instead of reading out his note, he can't do it. So, you know, and he leaves them. He then visits, you know, May's grave. So yeah, and he's now joined by unaware Happy Hogan, who doesn't know who he is. So unfortunately, guys, Happy Hogan can't look after him anymore, sadly. So yeah, that's a massive shame. I didn't really like that, to be honest. But yeah. And then And then Peter moves into a new apartment, and we got a little nod to Mr. Ditkovich because, you know, the owner mentioned rent, so that was pretty funny. And he creates a new suit, guys, to, you know, continue with his heroics. And yeah, the new suit, in my opinion, is what he should have had in Civil War, in my opinion. Because it was way better than any other suit he's had before, apart from Iron Spider, because that's, you know, a comic suit, you know. Like, you know, that new suit, you know, I wish we had it since the beginning of his MCU journey, you know. So that's when the movie ends, guys, and then, you know, we then get, you know, a mid-credit scene where, you know, and we get to see Eddie Brock. Because if you watch Leather Carnage in the post-credit scene, he, of course, gets sent to the MCU. And he's with Venom, you know, talking about, you know, the MCU, about other superhumans being the Avengers and also Thanos and the Blip with a bartender. And they're wondering how they can protect this new world, and they want to meet Spider-Man, but they get put up back in their universe by Strange's spell. However, unfortunately, they have left behind a piece of a symbiote on the counter. So, yeah. I've got a feeling that's going to be setting up Venom in a future Spider-Man movie, but, you know, I don't care, because after I see this movie, I'm of course going to be done with the MCU anyway, so, yeah. So, yeah, this was a brilliant movie, guys. Like, in my opinion, the true end of Tom Holland's journey as Spider-Man, you know, and probably a fitting epilogue to, you know, the end of the MCU, in my opinion, to be honest. So, yeah. This was definitely the best one of Phase 4 for me, in my opinion, like, so, yeah. Now, if you want I'll give it out of 10, guys, then I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. So, yeah, my 4th favourite. And there'll be a pinned comment coming soon, guys, where I'll show my new ranking of the movie because it's changed a lot. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, so this is me reviewing Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, great movie, great cast, and, you know, Jamie Foxx was also redeemed as Electro gracefully because he had a much better suit, and he gave a great performance like he did before. He was great. And yeah, this was a great movie. And seeing Toby and Andrew, I felt like a little kid again. So, yeah. So, you know, drill, guys, be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to on the comments what you guys thought of Spider-Man No Way Home. Have you seen it? We'll see your thoughts are on it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for more videos coming in the future. If you'd like to be a member, you can press join with the piece like you can in the description. And with great power comes great responsibility.